Just want to tell you a little bit about me and a few of the major things that drove my law enforcement career to make the decisions that I made along the way, kind of drove me. So I got out of the Army in the late part of 95, early part of 96, basically January 96, and kind of knew I wanted to go into law enforcement. So I did do that. I went through the basic training and became a deputy first. And so I had not been a deputy very long. And the area that I lived in was a pretty small area. Everybody kind of knew everyone. And a church van with a family in it was heading to church on a Monday night, and a log truck that was in very bad condition caused a pretty massive crash and killed 5 family members at one time. So I didn't know the people directly. Didn't They were not in my church, but it was right there in our church community. So our whole area got hit pretty hard with that. And at that point, I can say I didn't know anything about commercial motor vehicles. I never stopped commercial motor vehicles. I was a deputy, but I never forgot about that. And then later, around 2001, I decided I want to go in work for what was then called DMV, which did the enforcement for commercial motor vehicles. So I spent the better part of my career stopping log trucks, chip trucks, and all kinds of commercial motor vehicles to do safety inspections and make sure they're not overweight. I will say I have a huge amount of respect for the logging industry. They work so hard, and most people have no idea how important they are to our economies, our communities. Um, but there are some bad actors out there that don't maintain their equipment like they should, and ultimately it makes those vehicles be extremely dangerous. So some of the other stuff I'll go into later was a direct result of some of those maintenance issues. But I'll go into that at another time. So another thing in my career that kind of drove me in that direction, the different directions, was I was a deputy still, and there was a little boy that was in a pretty abusive environment. His mom was not directly abusive to him, but she was really bad on drugs and had really bad people around her. And I went to many calls to that residence, and I had filed many filings to try to get him removed from that house. And unfortunately, she was extremely impaired, was called in by many callers, and ultimately law enforcement kind of failed and didn't get her stopped. She was going the wrong way on a highway and hit a car head on. The little boy's name was Lucas, and Lucas was killed instantly. So a big part of that incident was the fact she was impaired on drugs, not alcohol. So the law enforcement officers that did meet with her that day didn't recognize the drug impairment and let her go. And then Lucas was killed a short time later. So I became what's called a drug recognition expert. Simply what that is some very highly trained law enforcement officers that look for all the signs of impairment. They do the roadside testing, and then they can identify the difference between medical issues, say someone's diabetic or having some kind of stroke or something like that, or alcohol or drugs. And then if it is drugs, then they can do further testing and prove that it's drugs to, take those drug impaired drivers off the road. So extremely difficult course. I would say it was more above my head than my intelligence allows. It was the most difficult course I ever had to take or try to pass, and I passed it and even became an instructor for it later. And kind of helped push the narrative of drug impaired driving in the state of North Carolina. And then the last one was I was with the state, and was the first one. Just happened to be close by. It was a work zone, and it was a one-lane work zone on an interstate, and someone had hit a barrel. The barrel had went into the one lane. It was open, so traffic stopped, and a commercial motor vehicle was stopped, and then multiple, and then cars. Well, coming in the rear, a commercial motor vehicle was not paying attention and never even touched their brakes, and hit a car, knocked that car underneath another tractor trailer, and killed the driver and the passenger of that car that was between the two instantly. The driver ultimately lived, and the husband and wife that was in that car, and she was pregnant, was my brother's youth pastor, and so I knew them. It hit the community pretty hard as well. So it drove me to work really hard for work zone safety. So I spent another 10 or 15 years really pushing for new technology in work zones, and was successful in getting some new equipment to help with those issues and distracted driving. I'd say one of my biggest campaigns as a law enforcement officer in the commercial section is pushing for commercial motor vehicles to, pay attention and not be on their phones. Unfortunately, they are. So those are the three main incidents that really pushed my career. And then as I go into other things in more detail, you will see why I did what I did, and why I worked so hard to do the things I did, and how I got the knowledge I got to do some of the things I did. So just thought that'd be a good idea, a good way to start, just so you kind of know what has driven me through my career.